Hi, I'm Colleen Ranney. I'm the author of 3 books. 2 books are poetry and 1 book is short stories and little quotes. I'm from Canada. We're going to do a series of poetry discussions about questions that you guys have given me. I am a poet and a writer because I have a lot of things to say, but I don't always know how to communicate them with people. It's easier for me to write things down. I guess I've been doing that ever since I was young. I started writing when I was young because I had an older sister who always had the first word and the last word, and so I would run to my room and write down what I was feeling. When nobody else listens to you, it's good to write things down, and then you actually kind of have the feeling of getting it out even though nobody heard you. My first book, some of my poems were written when I was in public school, 7, 8 years old. I was writing. I was in my 20s when I started writing a lot more, but I've always wrote little scribbles here and there on my binder at school, inside the binder at school. When you're a child raised in the Mennonite religion, there aren't a lot of things to do. You don't have TV, you don't have radio. Sometimes it was so I wouldn't be bored. I have 2 favorite poets. My one is Emily Dickinson and the other is Rumi. However, I'm not influenced by what Rumi writes. I seem to like the way he writes using word pictures more than most poets. Emily Dickinson talks a lot about nature, and I love nature, so I'm influenced by that. I like proverbs in the Bible. I got asked several years ago when I was writing one prayer, where do you get all this information? When I was writing it every day, when you're a poet or a writer, you keep your eyes peeled for things, for little things that are out of the ordinary. Topics of my poems come from my own personal day, like going for walks to get the mail, like meeting people, being out in nature. If I had a conversation with someone about something and had a little aha moment, I'll write about that. Some of the poetry comes from major events and tragedies in my own life, things that I've gone through on my own personal level, things that people I've known have suffered also. That is my avenue of expressing. A lot of people will, like I wrote this morning, get tattoos or listen to their favorite song or wear some sort of clothes that fits in their group. I write poetry because that's my avenue of expressing myself. What sets me apart from other poets and makes me distinct from other writers, and is an important part of being an expressive poet for me, is I don't follow rules. I write from the English language, however, I don't follow the rules and regulations of high-class literature lovers. My poetry just comes out. There's an importance in having your own original, authentic essence put into your art. To be a copycat or follow a set of rules confines art into a little box, and if you put everything into a little box, then it doesn't have any room to expand. I feel it's important for any young aspiring poet or artist of any kind to take their work seriously, to take what is natural to us and make it serious to us. You're trying to get across a message that something is important to you. It first has to be important to you. It takes a lot of courage to stand behind what you're doing on one sense, but on another sense, if you really believe and have conviction about what you're writing, you'll just automatically have the courage to express it and have the desire to share it. You'll want to, need to. I feel poetry is still important today in our modern world because it is a form of art. Poetry is not a dead art. We're gonna need poetry in the future, and The biggest reason why we're going to need poetry in the future is because there's going to be poets that are born. And there's nothing worse than having a society that feels shunned, or like their talents are unwanted, or like they really have no purpose whatsoever. And there's always going to be people born who want to read poetry. The importance of poetry historically is it's like a time capsule about what people are thinking about in that decade or that year. If you go back at any of the poets like Shakespeare, you hear the type of language they used then and the difference there is now. I believe there has to be a big change in the minds of those next generations that are coming with technology, texting, short forms of words. To be literate and to be able to read or write is going to be something that's important 200 years from now, because it is a form of communication. Poets born 100 years from now looking back would probably think some of our language that we use is ancient, and we need to preserve that. And like I said before, we need to support people who are poets and who enjoy reading poetry.